welcome to Three Things with JR. It's episode number 144. We're in the 5th season. This is the 6th episode. How are you? I'm doing great. Today is Sunday, April 7th, as I sit here recording. You're listening to it after that, because it drops on Tuesday, April 9th. So you will have heard this after the total eclipse. For a little while yesterday, I was looking into it, watching some YouTube, checking the weather, checking the NASA website, entertaining the idea of getting in my car with my dog early Monday morning and driving out to somewhere to see total eclipseness. I forget, there's a term for that. Totality, that's it. To catch the eclipse in totality. My friend Darren, who you may remember from last episode, introduced me to Dude Wipes. He and his brother are planning to go to Kentucky and set up a base camp there, and then Monday morning drive to wherever the weather is going to be best to see the eclipse. But I did not make advanced plans for this. I did stop in a gas station like 2 months ago, and that's when I found out there was an eclipse coming, because they were putting out a box of eclipse glasses out for sale, and I bought a pair thinking that's cool. Oh, that's a way to remember that this is about to happen. But I didn't make any plans other than that. So I started thinking yesterday I might want to go out and do it. I started texting my buddy Darren, and ultimately I've decided no, it's not worth the trip. I mean, everybody says it is, but there's too much risk involved. And by risk, I'm talking about doing all that driving only to not be able to find a place with no cloud cover to see it. According to the latest forecast, the best weather is going to be in like Maine, and I'm not driving from Charlottesville to Maine on Monday morning. So I'm just going to watch the eclipse at not quite totality level here in Charlotte. I'm just going to walk out into the parking lot at work and grab my glasses and look up and see what happens. So you will know by now, when you listen to this show, if the total eclipse that happened yesterday was the end of the world or the rapture or whatever. I kind of doubt it. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't be listening to this show. Anyway, there you go. That's the eclipse for me. We'll just enjoy it the way it is in Virginia tomorrow. So here's some updates on things from previous shows. If you listen to my last episode, you know that night I was going to go audition for a solo in our Crozet community chorus, and I did that. I definitely auditioned. I went into it not feeling super confident, because all of my practice at home had only revealed the deficiencies in my ability to harmonize and sing. So when Kiki and I would try to sing the duet together, it didn't go great. However, I had a feeling when I showed up to choir that night that I knew that she was going to run the entire chorus through it a couple of times before asking us to audition solo. And she did, in fact. So that provided the things I needed in my brain to help me hear my notes during the harmonies, during the duet. And so I did. I went up and I auditioned. There was 3 of us guys auditioning for the role of Candide, and I didn't have to go first. I got to listen, standing right next to Bill, who went first, and he killed it. I knew at that point that the pressure was off. We would not have to rely on my ability to sing this solo for this song to be great at our concert. And if I somehow did better than Bill, great. Chances of that were slim to none. So I went into it without any fear or agitation or anything like that. And I sang that solo pretty damn good. Better than I had sung it on the end of this show. If you listened all the way to that, it was way better than that. There's some funky rhythms. I got those right. And I think I pretty much hit all the notes. Not as good as Bill, but I got them. And so, and then we had to do the duet part. And they had Bill and me sing it multiple times with multiple females to see how the voices worked together. And according to Kiki, I was able to harmonize and hit my notes instead of just singing in unison with her or with the other female. So but I knew when it was happening that although I was doing well, Bill was going to be the guy. And sure enough, that was the ultimate decision, was to give the solo to Bill, and he absolutely earned it. And I am just simply thrilled to have done the audition and not embarrassed myself by squeaking out some horrendous notes. That's not what happened. I sang good. Bill sang great. Brett, the third guy who auditioned, also sang great. I think Brett and I were evenly matched. If it were between him and me, that would be a tough choice. Our director, Addie, didn't have a tough choice. Bill was the guy. So I'm feeling really good about how all that went down, and I'm looking forward to hearing him sing the solo at our concert. So, another update, The Great Gatsby. It's happening. We are into Tech Week. This show drops Tuesday. Tuesday night is our first Tech Week rehearsal in the actual performance space, which is a country club in Culpeper, Virginia. And I'm pretty excited. The show's really coming together. The cast has really figured out how to make this thing work. It's a weird show. It's called a live radio play, and it's staged as though we are radio actors in the 1940s putting on a radio show, which is a reading of The Great Gatsby, an abridged reading of The Great Gatsby. And it's pretty cool. I get to play Tom Buchanan. They're all sort of bad guys in that in this story, but he's the baddest of the bad guys, and so I get to be a total asshole, and that's kind of awesome. I'm finding that I like playing a bad guy. So The Great Gatsby in Culpeper this Saturday, April 13th. Doors open at 5:30. Dinner's at 6. The show starts at 7. Dinner is included in the ticket price, which hopefully makes that ticket price make sense when you see it. I will provide a link to the show and the place where you can buy tickets in the show notes of this episode of this podcast. So if you have the availability and a few bucks, come on out and see The Great Gatsby, a live radio play in Culpeper this Saturday. Yesterday, as I sit here recording this on Sunday, on Saturday, ToBe Fare had a cool gig. We all met up in Richmond at a place called the Bryan Park Bar and Pub, I think it's called. And it's kind of a local blue-collar bar restaurant joint. And it's awesome. They had a great stage, and this was actually a benefit for I think a nonprofit maybe radio station in Richmond. And so they had 4 bands. They provided the drum set and the bass rig and the PA system, microphones, all that stuff. So all we had to do was show up with our most basic essentials and play. And the drum set was kind of cool. It was a smaller, sort of a compact kit with green sparkly shells on the drums, and but it was small, smaller than I'm used to playing. And it didn't have as many drums or as many cymbals as I'm used to playing. So I had to figure out some new patterns for my hands, but it all just worked just fine. I was really kind of worried about it, though, because the drum set was not what I would call robust or strong or commercial grade or anything like that. The hi-hat was a pretty weak hi-hat stand. The snare drum was barely sitting on this funky snare drum stand, which was the wrong size and all that, but it all worked. Nothing fell apart. I did, right before we opened up the show, I did apologize to the drum set for the poundage I was about to inflict upon it. And while it did seem a little weak in the knees, it did hold up well and sounded great. And I thought we sounded great as a band. Especially when we got to our final song, which is a medley. It's a mashup of 4 different songs, and the 4 different songs are Believe by Cher, Knocking on Heaven's Door by Bob Dylan, a song I can never remember the name of by The Cure, the one that goes, show me, show me, show me how you do that trick, that song, and then we finish it off with Closing Time. And this one took a lot of rehearsal for us to remember which part of which song comes next, and it all sort of rests upon the chorus of the song Believe by Cher, and that becomes quite the earworm, let me tell you. But we kind of killed it, and the people, as they, it was fun to watch the audience as they would show their recognition of each song as we got into each different song. It was kind of fun to see the faces light up when they would realize, oh my gosh, they're combining that song with that song. Oh, and that song. Oh, what about that song? That was fun. And all of our original stuff went over well. I am hopeful that we're going to get to play again at this location, maybe like on a Friday or Saturday night with another band or something like that. Maybe it'll be a paid gig this time, even better. But yeah, that went over well. So ToBe Fare, go to ToBeFare.com for more information about where to come see us play live. We do have some shows coming up, especially in the summer, starting in May. And so I think you should try to get out and see us, because we're got a 4th of July show happening. We're going to be at Pro Renata in June. A couple different campgrounds and things like that. So ToBe Fare, ToBeFare.com for the latest dates for shows. Next episode of this show, so 2 weeks from this one, episode 145, is going to feature an interview I'm super excited about. My daughter, Allison, called me up and said, hey, I've got to go to a birth. She's on call as a doula, and she never knows when that's going to, require her services, and she needed somebody to take care of her daughter, my granddaughter, Aaliyah, who is 5. And so I said, yes, bring her on into work. I will hang out with her and then take her to meet Grandma, my ex. And so Aaliyah and I got to hang out at my work for a couple hours, and I went ahead and fired up the microphones, and she was just hanging out with me in my office, and we just talked. She forgot about the microphone pretty quickly, so it was fun getting sort of candid 5-year-old Aaliyah's thoughts on bunches of different things. And I could have included that interview in this episode. However, I had some other things in mind, and as you will hear in thing number 3 today, this episode ultimately is not exactly going to be kid-friendly, and I want anybody to be able to listen to this interview with Aaliyah without having to worry about the rest of the stupid stuff I'm going to say in this episode. So that Aaliyah interview is coming next show, next episode of 3 Things with JR, which will be 2 weeks after this episode comes out. So mark your calendars, subscribe, and of course follow, like, do whatever you can do to make sure that you know when this next episode comes out. All right, let's get into things. Thing number one. All right, it's Saturday morning, yesterday for me, the morning of our ToBe Fare gig in Richmond, and it was kind of a weird morning. So the previous night, Friday night, Kiki and I got home, and there was no water at our house. We live on a huge farm. We live in a small house on a huge farm. There's bigger houses on this farm. The rich people that own it live in those bigger houses. So our Kiki is the hired help at Midway Farm where we live. And our house has no water. So what do you do? When that happens is you wait to find out from the people that own the place what the deal is with the water. And so I went to bed Friday night pretty much knowing I was not going to be able to take a shower in the morning, and I had a gig, and so I wanted to be able to get clean. So I made plans to get up even earlier than I normally would get out to the gym where I'm a member and take a shower there. And then I had to go to the storage place to pick up our stuff and then head to Richmond. So that's hiccup number one, was the lack of water at our house. And so easily dealt with. I had a solution. So all good there. And you know what, one thing I didn't do, which I know I see this on Facebook all the time, was immediately go to Facebook and go, ugh, no water at the house, seeking out sympathies and stuff like that. I'm not telling you this now because I want any sympathy. I'm telling you this now because it was part of a weird morning for me. And that's just how it started. So I go out to my truck, to start it up and hit the road, and boom, truck's not starting. This is weird thing number 2 Saturday morning. So turn the key, nothing, not even a click. The truck had 0 battery power, and at least that's what I hoped was the issue. So I popped the hood, moved my car over to the truck, ran the jumper cables, and sure enough, jumped it, started, no problem. I think this is because as my daughter was borrowing my truck for a few weeks, part of the electric seat adjustments controls got kind of physically messed up. I'm not sure how. I'm still trying to figure that out, but I think one of the controls was activated, while the truck sat for 2 days. And so that probably drained the battery. Anyway, it got started, but it just put me a little bit more behind. So now I had to get to the gym and take a shower with even less time than I had budgeted for. But another problem easily overcome. And so I get on the road and I'm hightailing it to the gym, driving a little faster than I normally would because I'm in a hurry. I got a gig to get to. I got stuff to do. I need a shower. So I'm coming in on this road. It's a 4-lane road in town, 2 lanes each direction, and I'm passing a car in the right lane, and there's a car pulling out who must not have seen my huge red truck behind the car that's in the right lane. And this car pulls out. He shouldn't have pulled out just based on the other car. He didn't really have time. He was taking a chance, but he made that car no problem. What he didn't count on was my truck being there and going a little too fast. And I've hit deer in my car several times in the last few years, and it sucks. The worst part of hitting something in your vehicle is that moment you realize it's inevitable, right? You see a deer coming in from your peripheral at the very last second, kind of like this car coming into your peripheral at the very last second, and you do what you can do to avoid it, but there's not much you can. In fact, I did have a deer do this to me in my new car just the other day. But because it's a fancy sports car with really good handling, I was able to swerve going at a fairly good speed and have the deer just barely nick my door, as opposed to taking out the front grille and headlights and all of that. So that's what I'm trying to explain here is that feeling of helplessness, of inevitability when you see that thing coming out in front of you and you know there's nothing you can do to stop it from happening. Not only have this happened with deer, I was in a car accident 27 years ago, long time, 1996, where a car came into my lane and I basically T-boned it with my car. I saw it coming, but there was not enough time to react strongly enough or do anything about it. And that was the feeling I had when this car pulled out yesterday morning. And I slammed on those brakes hard, real hard. And of course, it's a modern enough vehicle that it does have anti-lock brakes, and I could hear them doing their thing, but there was tire squeal, even with the ABS activated. Everything in my back seat flew forward. Truck, I didn't have to come to a complete stop, but I was able to slow down enough to let this car out. He probably saw me at the last second, and hopefully I think he hit the gas. So combining combining those two ideas, the other driver flooring it to get across 2 lanes of traffic and me slamming on the brakes to avoid him. I had that feeling, though, that feeling of inevitability, like this accident is going to happen. I am going to plow my big red truck into this tiny red Volvo, and this person in this car might die. Because the physics of it were not in their favor for sure. But as it happens, I didn't. I hit the brakes. They worked. He hit the gas. It worked. I just continued on down the road. He continued going his way, and we're both just fine. So I could think of this almost accident one of 3 ways. I could think of it as, wow, I almost killed a person in my truck today because I was going too fast. That's one way to think of it. I didn't, so good. Or I could think of it as somebody almost died in an accident this morning without laying blame to either driver. Or I could think of it as, I think I saved a life this morning by paying attention while I was driving. Sure, I was going a little fast, but I wasn't texting and driving. I wasn't thinking of other things or daydreaming. I was actively engaged in the process of driving. And because of that, I was able to react quickly enough to save a life. That would have definitely been worst case scenario, but I prevented that. And that seems to me to be the best way to think about this in the most positive terms possible. It'll also, of course, make me think about going fast when I don't really need to. But there you go. That was my weird morning on Saturday. And I'm just happy to be able to say I think I saved a life.
Thing number two.
Thing number 2 is normally some sort of recommendation or some sort of movie, show, book, song, band that is moving me so much so that I want to tell you about it. And actually, I've got 4 things I want to tell you about here in thing number 2. First, I just finished binging The Gentleman on Netflix. If you're familiar with Guy Ritchie's movies like Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels or Snatch, you will love this show. It's like 8 episodes of that level of entertainment, going into the gritty underworld of England crime, and it's a fun show, a lot of fun, very stylized, good music, funny characters, and brutal violence. So. Digged it, loved it. If you're into that sort of thing, The Gentleman on Netflix, go for it. Last night I finished watching Steve Martin, a documentary in 2 pieces. And I think I've talked about this maybe, but now that I have seen both pieces, I want to implore you to watch this show. If you are already a fan of Steve Martin, whether it's his older stand-up stuff or his movies or what he's doing now with the show Only Murders in the Building, regardless of when you became aware or which era of Steve Martin you might like, you should watch this show because it is a touching story of a very smart, very capable, introspective, wild and crazy guy. And it's just fantastic. If you don't already love Steve Martin as a person, before you watch this show, and then you do watch this show, you will love Steve Martin as a person and hopefully as a performer as well. And I want to give you a little insight because they don't fully explain it. I think they play it in the show, but I want to explain the title. When you see the title, it's a big word, Steve, all capital letters, and then a small, in parentheses, Martin. Steve Martin is kind of how you would say it if you saw it, right? But what's the deal with that? Why is it titled that way? Well, I know because I've been listening to Steve Martin's Let's Get Small comedy album since before I can even remember. I've been quoting it as long. I mean, there's not a day that goes by that I don't quote this or think this in some situation in life. It's that meaningful to me. So Let's Get Small is a tape I would even say at one point I had the entire thing memorized. And this title for this show comes from that. And it comes from this bit right here.
You know, a lot of people come to me and they say, Steve, how can you be so fucking funny? There's a secret to it. There's no big deal. I'll be honest with you. Before I come out, I put a slice of bologna in each one of my shoes. So when I'm on stage, I feel funny. People come to me, they say, Steve, Martin, is there some way I could be funny too?
So there you go. Go check out Steve Martin, a documentary in 2 pieces. It's on Apple TV, and it's just fantastic. I'm not sure which part of it I liked more, seeing all of his, the first half of his life with the stand-up and him growing up and being a writer for the Smothers Brothers and working at Disney and things like that. I love that, but I already knew a lot of that because I've read his book. Or did I like the second half, the second part? The modern day Steve Martin that I still know and love. So either way, check it out. It's great. Incredibly touching when he talks about his dad, both in the first one and the second part. And it brings him to tears, which definitely brought me to tears watching it. So I just love that guy. So cool. The next thing I want to recommend, if you're a Black Keys fan, their new album dropped last week on Friday. And I have been listening to it a bunch since then in the car. I have taken time away from listening to audiobooks, Stephen King, to listen to the Black Keys as I drive around. And it's great. I would say not quite as catchy as some of their previous albums, especially El Camino. So it's not my number one favorite Black Keys album, but it is solid Black Keys. They have a sound, they have a groove, and I just love it. So I definitely recommend checking out the new Black Keys album if you haven't already. And lastly, this Beyonce album, it's hard to avoid, right? I scroll through TikTok on the regular, and every other video seems to be somebody dancing or singing or doing something with the Cowboy Carter song. And I've seen and heard many people talk about how great an album it is. I've never really been a Beyonce fan, but there's so much hype about this one that I thought I'll give it a listen. And so I've been scrubbing through it on Spotify, listening. There's a whole bunch of songs. It's like if it was CDs, it would be a 2 CD set. I assume that's what it is. But I get it. I can say that. I definitely get it. Maybe I am a Beyonce fan. Not every single song on this album does it for me, but there's a few that really do. My number one favorite that I heard was a song called Ya Ya. That song is on fire. The drums come in strong, the electric guitars. I mean, it freaking rocks.
We snapping. Pretty place. Tom's place. We want to welcome you to the Beyonce Cowboy Carter Act 2 and a rodeo chillin' circuit. We're gonna make it do what it do, yeah, yeah. Put them hands together. We clapping. We drumming.
So check out Ya Ya on Cowboy Carter. Also, Levi's Jeans with Post Malone is one of my favorite songs on there. River Dance is pretty fantastic as well. But it's definitely an album I could put into my rotation. I don't know that I'm going to go binge it and learn all the words and all that, but it is beautiful. It is catchy, in-your-face fun. So I'm digging the new Beyonce album, and I never thought I'd say that. All right, that's it. Let's do the last thing.
Thing number 3.
So, like a lot of people, I spend my time while taking a dump scrolling through TikTok. I do that at work. I do that at home, wherever I can. It's my favorite way to make my legs go numb while I'm sitting there long after I've done my business. I will continue to sit there waiting for whatever TikTok video to finish. And it's very often during these times that I find a TikTok that I think is relevant or funny enough for the people in my life, to share it with the people in my life. It's not uncommon for me to share things with my kids, Allison and Chester, or with my mom and my sister, or with the guys in my band, or with a couple coworkers at work. I've got 4 different groups of people that I regularly send TikToks to. And so if you're in any one of those groups and you've received a TikTok from me, you should know that it most likely happened while I was taking a dump. And I want to tell you about a particular one that happened the other day. This TikTok channel comes up called Obscurest Vinyl. And if you've heard of it already, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't heard it already, you should definitely check it out. I want to read to you their bio as it is written on Spotify. So Obscurest Vinyl, you can think of them as an artist, but it's an artist kind of like Postmodern Jukebox, where they do up some older songs in a newer style. Or maybe I should say do up newer songs in an older style. Obscurest Vinyl is kind of like that. I do believe these are not for real old songs, even though that is what the name implies. But I believe these are catchy little tunes written today, recorded and performed today by modern musicians, but they are definitely going for a sound as if it was on a record from many, many years ago. And they even come up with album covers that go along with these songs. And so here's how they describe themselves over there at Obscurest Vinyl. Here it is. Releasing a record is like a game of darts. With a bit of practice, patience, and luck, a record executive might score the next bullseye hit. But what happens when precision is replaced by coke-fueled desperation, wild, irrational trend chasing, and complete fiscal irresponsibility? This is the beginning of an amateur, deep and dirty dive into those annals to explore the releases that missed the mark and left forgotten scars on the drywall of our society. This is the Obscurest Vinyl. That's how they describe themselves. And I had never heard of them before I found them on my TikTok feed while taking a dump at work on Friday. And the particular song that came up, it just struck me as hilarious. The song is called Rubbin' and a Tuggin' My Nips. And it goes a little something like this.
Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. I've been tugging these nips and I'm rubbing them again. See you in hell, I don't give a shit. I'm just a rubbing and a tugging my fucking nips.
So that's what these songs are about. And I heard that song and I thought, wouldn't it be funny if I sent the guys in the band, Gary and Brian, a link to this TikTok and said, hey, we should cover this song. Wouldn't it be great? Sure, we would have to find a saxophone player, but I think it could work. And I just sent him a link. And so Gary didn't pick up on the fact that I was just being funny. In fact, he challenged me on how much sense it would actually make to do this song as a cover. Let's go here. So I sent him that, and he responds, if we were playing frat parties, maybe. And so I responded, hey, we should play it in Farmville, because we've been talking about trying to get a gig in Farmville. It's a college town, Longwood College. He said, LOL, we should probably behave ourselves in a club, especially in Farmville. I said, hey, it's a college town. He said, yes, and if we get to play there, and if we score a frat party from that set, then we can work it up. Sorry, man, but that's just not my cup of tea, song-wise, especially since it doesn't jibe with anything else that we play. And it was that point when I realized Gary has no idea that I'm not being serious about this. Brian, I think he did know that it was a joke, but even he wasn't quite sure, because he responded and said, it's far too sentimental and sweet. Is that a Doris Day cover? So he's joking along with us, right? So I finally said, did you think I was being serious, Gary? And he says, hell, some days I can't read a room with cheaters on. Sorry, JR, I guess I have too much rumbling through my brain today. When we met up yesterday in Richmond, I brought this up, and Gary had good reason for not realizing I was joking, and it hadn't occurred to me until he told me this, that apparently over the years I have suggested songs for our bands to cover that definitely are not quite on the mark for our bands. And I have been racking my brain to think of some songs that are these songs, and I am not debating or denying what he's saying. I know it's true. There's many songs I've said, hey, let's try this one, and it just either we tried it and it didn't work, or we didn't even try it because nobody was willing to play it. So Gary was thinking of all of that as he's seeing and listening to the song, which again, I'll remind you, is called Rubbin' and a Tuggin' My Nips. So I made sure he was aware that I was joking. I just had a lot of fun with that one. It's the craziest part about this is, that was it. That was the whole thing. I just thought it was a funny joke. My nips aren't even that sensitive. Like, I have no desire to rub or tug on my nips. I know there's people that do, but that's not me. I mean, like, I'm touching my nip right now, doing nothing for me. Nothing at all. The other one, yep, same thing. I mean, tugging, sure. Nope, that's just annoying. So I'm not into nipple play myself, but there you go. After the, if you listen to the entire show, you'll notice that I usually put some fun stuff at the end of the credits. And I'm going to put maybe another song or two from Obscurest Vinyl. If you are indeed listening to this show with a young, impressionable child, you should stop at the theme song, which is Brand New Day by my band, ToBe Fare, which is great. You should make sure your kids listen to that. But when that song ends, things are going to get dirty. Just for like a minute. That's it. I just want you to hear some of the fun stuff that Obscurest Vinyl is responsible for. You can find them on Instagram, on TikTok. They don't have like a full-fledged website yet. They don't have a ton of followers. Their songs are on Spotify. That's where I just played that for you now. It's called Obscurest Vinyl, and they seem to be doing most of their social media on Instagram, where they have like 200,000 followers. So check them out there. I think they're hilarious. They are as dirty as it gets. It seems like they're going for shock jock level dirtiness, trying to come up with the worst things they could make songs called. Here, I'll give you some song titles. How about this? Quit Jizzing in the Hot Tub. I glued my balls to my butthole again. It's time to take a shit on the company's dime. So those are just 3 songs. And it's funny enough that that's one of the songs. It's time to take a shit on the company's dime, because that's exactly what I was doing when I sent Gary and Brian the TikTok for Rubbin' and a Tuggin' My Nips. So it comes around full circle. It's like the circle of life, only very, very different. All right, that's it. That's the show. Thank you for listening to 3 Things with JR. Next week, coming at you is an episode of Small Things Considered, in which Gary and I will be interviewing my dad, who is a former person that voted for Trump and a devout Christian, and we're going to ask him about his thoughts on the Trump selling Trump Bibles. So we're going to be recording that tomorrow night, and that will be out on the next episode of Small Things Considered. So you don't want to miss that. Keep in mind, Aaliyah is going to be on the next episode of this show, Three Things with JR. So a lot of good stuff coming at you in the 2 different podcasts I work on. So thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.
It's a brand new day. It's a brand new day.
It's time to take a shit on the dog next time. I don't even have to shit sometimes. I'm just hanging down as the time flies by. Getting paid to shit, getting paid to wipe. The best 45 minutes of my fucking life. Getting paid to shit, getting paid to wipe. The best 45 minutes of my fucking life.
I got my balls to my butt.